J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot to get into here today. We already have Ida Beza-Gardner demonstrating with the hello and the hand wave over there on the social media there. Do appreciate that, and that's one of the reasons we mentioned those, because it's one of the better ways you can get at us during the show, add your 2 cents throughout the duration, even if we have those phone lines open a little bit later as usual. I mean, we got progression of the show, and this is how we go through it. So if you want to get your comments in, more than welcome to. You want to call in a little bit later as we do. But in any case, hope you all are tuned in, locked in, ready to go for another discussion about some major things affecting us here in the borderland, and one of them kind of developing like now-ish. Like there's not even necessarily that much detail out there about it yet, but major changes or potentials. I kind of was speculating on this, and so I guess I'm not too surprised, even if it has been the phrase works such as better late than never comes to mind when we're talking about an appeal to stop the end of Title 42, but that is exactly what the Biden administration has now asked for. And so what happens next? Few questions come to mind from that here, but that developing almost literally as of this hour, or within the last hour or so here. So talking about that, what that might mean locally, also related to some of the other things going on with the August 3rd case, not even just the district attorney. Well, in a name, yes, but a, previous one. Let's just put it that way here, being confirmed, and potential impacts that is going to have on the prosecution of that case as one of the heads in the region for that kind of thing from the federal level. And also checking with our news partners there at KFOX14, Stephanie Seifert joining us by phone in the interview for recorded today, and talking about some of the major other reporting on some of those other big topics that we often focus on about crime, drugs, but not even just the prevention of it, but what happens on the back end after the, interdiction may or may not occur, what happens with those being affected by it, and how some of those stats may definitely have or should have an impact for this upcoming legislative session here. So another busy day for you as we are creeping closer to the end of the year, and also elections. That's happening. We're creeping closer to the end of the runoff elections here, and I'm not going to call it a fever pitch, though I've definitely been getting multiple mailers at my house here, which is okay. There's a lot of phrasing that can be done for bulk mailers as the premier broadcast or outreach medium, but still, it's a level of effort to actually have someone send something physical to your place here, and at least one, if not more. I mean, it's been windy out there, so there may have been no one that blew away, but kind of like the door tags, door knockers, that kind of thing out there. Because, I'm in District 1, and I've been getting texts and everything about the campaign and election. So, just checking in on that a bit. So make sure you've gone out there to vote there. I want to ding that bell a whole lot more today for those who have gone out to do so. So in any case, we've got a lot to talk about today, so appreciate it. And again, however you wanted to be involved with us here, that's the right way for you to be. So let's dive straight in on it. Again, coming out here more or less as of this last hour, maybe just a little bit more than, we are looking at the Biden administration now challenging the end of Title 42, filing an appeal that would be putting it at the end of here a little bit later in December, about December 2021, give or take here, but is also saying that they're going to be looking at new regulations going into it. So now, one of the major cornerstones of the whole policy that has been one of the last policies left in place, really, when you get down to it, whenever it comes to specific enforcement in these situations Title 42 is the decision that has been put into, the policy that's been in place to prevent for, it's pandemic related. It does come out of the Trump administration, of course, here. But the fact of the matter is that with the systems overwhelmed as they currently are, I mean, there are literally years-long backlog within the immigration courts here, and with the laws that are in place dating back several decades, again, defining laws and policy differently here, because there still has not been really a substantive and overarching. There have been smidgens. We've had some interviews on that in the past about specific, like subsection of visa programs that have had law changes with that. Sure, that has happened within the last few half dozen decades. Okay, it's not quite that much, but it sometimes feel like it. So point being that there hasn't been necessarily a whole lot of specifically relevant or responsive things to what the current situation is. So Title 42 being kind of the last policy standing from the previous administration, as MPP, the Migrant Protection Protocol, so-called Remain in Mexico policy, was also just going to call it sunsetted earlier this year. Title 42 was the last more responsive one for the current situation and the surges that we have been seeing, or at the very least, that's how it's been being applied. I mean, still does reference pandemic things and pandemic issues as the reason for the justification behind it. But really what it's come down to for this administration, along with the previous one, wasn't the only one for the previous one, obviously. There was a much more willingness to put policy into place there on this issue, as was very, very evident. For this administration, this has been about the only really new thing, or thing kept around, I guess I should say, except for the kind of base immigration law about how the immigration course is supposed to proceed, those kind of things. So the fact that this has been willing to be applied in different ways, you may remember locally, it was definitely applied, or the border sector overall, but definitely felt the impacts here locally of as it was applied to the Venezuelan situation and those of Venezuelan points of origin and being applied to them specifically. So this still apparently being seen as a tool by the Biden administration and one that might be very necessary. So those appeals happening as of today now in federal court there, that would be making it so that they could not remove it. As we also have Eric von Holstein-Rathlow chiming in with us. Yo, and I don't have my sunglasses handy, but sunglasses, smiley face to you as well there. Is that the right way to read it? Anyway, point is that actually looking at this potential for keeping it around, I mean, I'm not going to say I called this or do a like and I told you so, but again, I am not surprised given that, well, there's a whole lot of optics, politics, but also just bare functionality that have come into place for this here. That's relying on nothing besides new policy. Of course, the administration, given that there has been a lack of new actual laws being passed, which I could harp on for another hour or two, if this were to be removed and they were still having difficulties in situations, it would become increasingly incumbent upon them to do something, take more action, author new policy. And that has been something that has just, well, not been forthcoming. I'm not going to comment on willingness or not, but obviously not a lot that has come out except kind of a slow removal. I know some would call it very quick, but legislative or policy speaking, it's been slow-ish, I guess would be the best way I could think to put it. And so the idea of removing it here, well, from the actual filing before the District Court of the District of Columbia, reporting from the Hill on this right now, saying the CDC's Title 42 orders were lawful, and this court erred in vacating those agencies' action. And so they're actually looking to make it so that also it's April order prevented from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, from rescinding the policy with its April order. So looking to kind of challenge across the board a lot of the court orders that have been put into place on this. And well, yeah, there have been still more controversies that's probably going to be coming in on it. And RJ saying that when asked in Arizona, the president said it's not important to go to the border. So, I mean, I get your interpretation, RJ specifically saying that he could care less. I'll leave that interpretation up to you here, but it's still very interesting that this filing has been made because, okay, I see a couple of factors going into this. A, without anything else like this, then would be then incumbent upon, like I said, the administration to author new policy, be more responsive, because clearly status quo isn't actually possible here. John Browston saying the only legislation that Congress wants to pass is more amnesty. I'm not going to call that one. I mean, sure, I know there are currents along that idea. Some would be willing to push for that, but I don't see that actually passing even in this lame duck session. I know it's come up, but with all the jumbled priorities and this being a particular sticking point, I would be surprised if anything even remotely resembling the concept of amnesty is able to pass through this particular Congress. And then certainly with the next one, I know that's, well, okay, I'm going to just ignore the cloudy crystal ball here for a second and say what I would like to see would be maybe not a grand bargain, because I'm not going to hold, if I was holding my breath on anything, I would have passed out a long time ago from that one. But maybe they're having to be a bit of back and forth, give and take, to be able to get it through the Senate and the House here, of actually being something of the combination of both immigration reform as well as border security reform, or revamping in any case here. Again, not super not going to hold my breath on that, but it's a possibility. We can dream, can't we? And if there was a time for it, maybe when there is not the single domination control and them actually having to work together, I mean, necessity makes strange bedfellows, and who knows? Maybe we can actually find a reason to keep it together there in the national legislature. Not a whole lot lately, but hey, apparently this is the one weird way that I'm an optimist. The idea that maybe we can get things done. But in any case, this seeking to not have Title 42 removed will be one that we'll definitely be wanting to watch very carefully over the next, what is that actual timeline here that we're looking for, the 21st? About 2 weeks. 2 weeks away that we're doing this. So again, the phrases such as better late than never come to mind, but I'm not quite sure I'm willing to apply it in such a cases. But it could have a lot of impact, particularly since even as of this week, statements coming out of, say, deputy city managers about how there's no real way to be prepared for the end of it. Still will probably be a lot of impacts we are seeing here in this area. And John Browson saying the newest Georgia senator provides a voting majority necessary, but still, that's for the upper house, I will say, referring there to the whole Warnock and Walker situation with Warnock, the race being called in favor of the Democrat incumbent in that case. And sure, that does change the calculus slightly, mostly within the Senate, where the whole one sticking point, though it's notable, I would say, that there have been at least 2 Democratic senators who have been more willing to, let's just say, not toe the party line. So, and then also you can want to talk about Murkowski. Okay, maybe 3 and more. Okay, there's a bunch of, and that one's not a Democrat, obviously. There's a whole lot of factors here, and these slim majorities make the individual decisions potentially more important, even if it is maybe slightly flipped. But also remember, the lower house still is going to be transitioning control of Republicans come this next time. So like I said, maybe this is my weird errant optimism poking through, clawing to the surface in the one way that it can. But in situations like this, if there's actually having to talk to other people you may disagree with in terms of legislature in order to get anything done, who knows? Maybe people will remember that they can talk with each other, but again, not going to hold my breath on that one either. So one of the major situations that is definitely going to be having some impacts here, and the expectations, I mean, as much as probably that upcoming date here in December for the end of Title 42 being very well marked on a lot of calendars, this change and potential action could have a lot of impact there and on us locally. So with that, let's go ahead and talk right straight through the need for that first break. Now, taking that first break of the hour right now, you are, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Coming back after this break, conversation with Estefania Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners there at KFOX 14, talking about some other in-depth stories, including what is exactly being done, not just with the interdictions, which we talk about decently enough, but the aftermath of the use of, well, the drugs being smuggled through this area, including specifically some of the most deadly ones, and why numbers play a big deal with it. And even the idea of how measuring them is incredibly important and could impact future legislation. So all that and more, and plus some discussions about things involving the August 3rd case, new top federal prosecutor for the region being appointed and confirmed. But all that and more, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash on the on-ramp is blocking the entrance to Gateway West at Zaragoza, and on the 10 westbound at Zaragoza, a 3-vehicle accident's blocking the right shoulder. A stalled truck's blocking the left shoulder, I-10 eastbound at Trowbridge. It's been there for a while, and there's a backup to the 54 Patriot. And an accident reported towards downtown Mesa Street at Wyoming Avenue. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. It's pro time, because at Lowe's, it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVP's bonus points, and more the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long.
If you run a business, you know how important it is to continually find new customers and new ways to save money. Here at iHeartMedia, we can help with both. We reach more consumers in your area than anyone else, and we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. From your cell, dial pound 250 and say keyword great results. That's pound 250 and say great results.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development, the El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Construction site is a noisy place where things can be misinterpreted. We need to redo the drywall. It can sound a lot like
rewire the hull? The firing, Paul?
Wait, what did I do? Or even
Install a waterfall. Whose dumb idea was this?
be on the same page at every stage with Autodesk, from the designers to the field crew to the owner of the finished building. Autodesk Construction Cloud gives everyone clarity. Now, how about that drywall?
Make the season even brighter with beautiful jewelry from JTV. Shop JTV.com and get $25 off your purchase of $50 or more when you use code RADIO25. You'll discover more than 40,000 jewelry designs and gifts. That's enough to keep everyone on your list sparkling all season long. Plus, new customers will receive $40 in brilliant cash to use toward their next jewelry purchase. Shop JTV.com and use code RADIO25 and fill your holiday with sparkle.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso was more or less the main one, but there's a whole lot more out there, including other Facebook pages, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch channels as well, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Again, whatever works for you. Doesn't work for you, don't do it. But you got options is the reason we keep mentioning those, so you can find whatever works best for you to chime in and be a part of the conversation, discussing the things that affect us here in the borderland, because no one else is going to do that besides the way we hopefully can get to here. And a lot to be talked about today. We got even more potentially coming out about as more details emerging about the U.S. government's appeal. Okay, the Biden administration's appeal, better way to put it here, to the end of Title 42 that had been otherwise set for a little bit later this month. So, yeah, December 21st was definitely a circled, underlined, arrows pointing to it on the calendar kind of situation, probably for a lot of local officials and agencies and federal ones in the local area as well. So with that now being maybe, well, at the very least pushed back upon, if something can happen before that time, more stays put into place, there's honestly a lot of possibilities there, but there's also a lot more to talk about just beyond that, even as we'll probably be delving further into that later this hour. Again, we were able to check in a little bit earlier today with Stephanie Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners there at KFOX 14, out of the area, but still gracious enough to call us in and talk about some of the recent investigative reports, as much as we have definitely been talking about issues, concerns, all the situations involving the drug situations in our area, the smuggling that happens. But it's, of course, not just the fact that it moves through our community. It's often thought about that we're just a way station, doesn't really affect us here, as if we're somehow immune to it. And that is super not the case. We have definitely seen impacts from all levels of drugs here, not even just necessarily crime coming with it, but the users as well. So actually tracking that, and not even just in our area, but throughout the rest of the border sector, particularly for Texas, given the fact that we got that legislative session all but started here. Like, there's definitely within behind closed doors and in offices a lot of furious work going on right now, getting ready for it. Make no mistake about that. So what do you do about that? What do you do about measuring it? And so talking about that and some of the in-depth reporting that Estefania has been doing, is able to, again, check in with her a little bit earlier today. Here is that interview. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Estefania Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners there at KFOX 14, and joining us by phone this week. Thank you very much for calling in today.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely happy to talk to you, as we do on most Wednesdays here, because, of course, we got a lot of big and important stories, ones we've been discussing today already, of course, here, but there's also those in-depth ones and those investigative reports that particularly you're working on there. And at least a couple that we've been discussing over the last couple of weeks, a couple of themes anyway that are definitely relevant here, including the one that we had teased last week and now people were able to see about kind of a continuing series. I guess we've been kind of referring to it here, involving drugs, drug addiction, and particularly the tracking and stats around it. And that's the most recent one that you have done there, right?
Yeah, so just as you mentioned, this is part of a series of stories that I've done about the overdoses that are being tracked in the borderland. And when I say borderland, for this specific report, we looked into El Paso and also touched a little bit on Las Cruces and even Juarez. What the trends are there. And like I said, it's part of that series of just looking into how this has grown to be a problem, according to our local authorities, who are seeing an increase not only in overdoses, but specifically in fentanyl use.
Right, and fentanyl has certainly been a major issue in a lot of different ways here, including some interesting action coming out from Governor Greg Abbott related to this on that here, including the changing policies involving fentanyl test strips, but specifically what you were talking about here, and again, your most recent story that, again, people can see over on KFOX 14, KFOXTV.com, and then click under the KFOX 14 Investigates tab here. Speaking about specifically, at least to start with, Anthony Torres, who was raised in Las Cruces and had a lot of, issues involving drugs and things like that in his life. And in coming off of that, just the headline here, I didn't know how to get help. So tracking addiction, and particularly the services available for it, are kind of a critical component in dealing with the response. Or like interdiction gets a lot of focus, the stopping and seizing of those materials. And we often get those updates coming out, particularly in our area from like Border Patrol, CBP, etc. But this is kind of the other really important factor of it, because those things that are being interdicted, being seized at the border, aren't just going into the nebulous ether. They're going to people. They're going to persons who are then using it. And if there's not kind of an off-ramp for them from that, that's when really dire consequences can happen.
Right. So with Anthony Torres, he was able to share his experience with drug addiction, which is something that's very difficult for many people to discuss. He is very open about it because he says he felt that he's been able to overcome it. And so now he wants to help other people. He wants to be, that guidance for people who may be going through similar situations. He had mentioned that he had done pretty much every possible type of illicit drug you could think of. He went to rehab for a few days and eventually got back into drugs. And so for him, it was a process of getting over his denial that he had an issue, that he had a drug addiction. And he says that ultimately it's his family who made him realize that he was going down the wrong path. And then he mentions a particular story where he says that he felt like he was having an overdose. And so he called his partner at the time. They were separated. He called her and said, I need help. I need an ambulance. I feel like something's happening to me. And she said, no, I've helped you so many times and you continuously are in denial. You don't want to get help. And so this is the last time, like, I'm not helping you. And for him, that was his wake up call, that he needed to stop and that he really needed to start looking into what's out there for me. And so in looking into what resources are available for people in the borderland who are trying to overcome addiction, I came across a program that started relatively new in April 2021, and it's being funded out of the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio. There are 5 of these programs across Texas, and what they are looking to do is track trends across the state and then ultimately create a database. Because as it was explained to me by the general manager of the program, there is no baseline to know exactly how many cases of drug addiction there are in El Paso. Mm-hmm. We can have an idea based off of what Project Vida or Aliviane tell us, as far as, we have this many cases, but there's really no concrete way of knowing, how many people are actually going through drug addiction. And so that's something that this program in particular is being funded to find and even track what types of drugs are being used. Of course, fentanyl is something that came up as something that is being seen more. So that's something that this program is trying to do specifically here in our area.
Yeah, interesting. And the name of that program, I do believe, the Opioid Rapid Response and Prevention Program, as you mentioned, funded through the University Health Sciences Center at San Antonio. And tracking some of those data here, because, I mean, data exists, but it being measured in the same ways and actually being collated into one kind of more central and usable format, because when you're trying to present overall facts and figures, going to each individual organization and trying to harvest from them, making sure it's apples to apples comparisons, because you may think, well, the numbers are the numbers, but how they're measured, I mean, there's different ways statistics can be factored in here. So trying to do it in one kind of concentrated and one central database, so to speak, in this way can be a very powerful tool in truly gauging how deep a problem really exists within any particular region, and that some of the areas, including what you're talking about there, is part of the story about what fentanyl and the impact has been, at least initially, measured in our area, including some of the latest numbers, say, from 2022, what the actual death toll has been from that in our area.
Right. And I mean, just like you mentioned, it's the information is tracked very differently in each city. So when we were looking into this, we were able to get statistics for El Paso as of, maybe 2020. For Texas, as of 2021. For Las Cruces, we're looking at, like 2016, 2018 data. There's like an occasional stat here and there from 2020, but that's, I think, the issue that they're trying to overcome is that there is no streamlined data, if you will, for us to get, every city from this year to this year, or every state from this year to this year. And that's what they're trying to do. And actually, the general manager of the program is Fernando Gonzalez Maese. I don't know if that sounds familiar to any of you all, but he used to be the lead epidemiologist for the city of El Paso. So now this is a new program that he's taken on. And I had mentioned that there were 5 other cities across Texas that are also trying to streamline this program. They are in Houston, Corpus Christi, Dallas, San Antonio, and of course here in El Paso.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Stephanie Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners there at KFOX 14. To find out anything more about this story or any of our previous or upcoming ones, kfoxtv.com, and then click under that KFOX 14 Investigates tab here. So a very important note here, as much as it relates to, well, a lot of other topics we've been talking about here. The state legislative session is nigh upon us. Again, already kind of, it's not totally publicly visible at this point, but the work has already probably reached a fever pitch for many offices and many kind of culmination of efforts going on, of legislation being drawn up over the past, pick a period of time since the last legislative session. And so this is when the actual, gears are starting to turn, even if, bills have been filed, even if there have been no motions, no actions on them yet. Essentially, the agendas and the things that are likely to happen are being drawn up right now. And that's one of the more important things about this program, kind of in the global sense, in the statewide sense, I should say, because the idea is to compile this data to make it more useful and available for things like legislation and for lawmakers to review and potentially take action on here. So there is the potential, even if, again, we have a lot further ways to go to see if that could happen, of this having some impact on this legislative session.
Yes, and that's something, like you just said, that the whole purpose of this really is to, one, track the trends, to then be able to create a database that is then used by lawmakers or even by the media to be able to inform people, but specifically for lawmakers to be able to base funding and be able to appropriate that where it's needed. So yeah, that's definitely something that, especially in times where, we're in a legislative session, that's definitely something that's very important for allocating funds. You'll remember with the Border Patrol story that we had talked about a few weeks ago, that was one of the reasons why that particular bill to amend the Texas tax code hadn't passed for it to say that Border Patrol agents were first responders. It didn't pass, not because it didn't get, bipartisan support or because it just didn't get any support. It was because they did not have enough data for them to approve it. And so that is extremely important, and one of the reasons why this program is really trying to gather as much information as possible in one place.
Of course, that is your most recent story, but you do have one coming up tonight that will be airing on KFOX 14. What is your upcoming story?
So, we have the runoff in December, and what this particular story looked into was they were the 3 ethics complaints that were filed against District 6 Representative Claudia Rodriguez. They were filed by an attorney who is an El Pasoan, but he practiced law in California for more than 40 years. He was actually an opponent of Claudia Rodriguez's in the previous election for District 6. Now, Rodriguez is being challenged in the runoff by Art Fierro. And so we take a look at what the complaints allege and also what Rodriguez has to say about them. And we also checked in with the Texas Ethics Commission just to see what the status of those complaints are as well.
So again, that'll be airing tonight. KFOX 14 News at 9, web story, and the review of it up online about the same time as there. Again, kfoxtv.com. And as always, if people want to get a hold of you for any other potential, input, feedback, or other maybe investigative stories to be looked at, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yes, through social media or even directly through email, EYSCYSSERT@kfoxtv.com.
And we'll have that up over on our socials as well. But again, right now joining us, of course, Stephanie Cipher, investigative reporter with our news partners there at KFOX 14, joining us by phone this time, but we'll be back into it as we are in future weeks here. So Stephanie, I thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us and call into the studio to talk about these important stories going on in our community here today.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me, as always.
Again, thanks to Stephanie for, while she was out of town here, calling in to speak with us about some of these important stories, but a lot more that we'll be getting into. Again, more information developing on this now appeal that the Biden administration has filed against the end of Title 42. So we'll have to talk more about that, but also more details on, what could be coming for the federal side of the prosecution in the August 3rd case and what that might mean, particularly as there has been a new confirmation put into place. It's not a surprise here, but it does leave a few more details on the table. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Phone calls a little bit later as we do. Comments still going on over on the social media if you want to add your 2 cents there. In any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. Certain medications are getting hard to come by in Las Cruces. Pharmacists there are dealing with a shortage of both Tamiflu and amoxicillin. Tamiflu is an antiviral medication that's often used to treat the flu. Amoxicillin is an antibiotic that's used to treat bacterial infections. Although these shortages are not uncommon during routine flu seasons, national shortages are being reported this winter. The city of El Paso is working to expand its animal services facility to better serve the growing number of animals in its care. The current facilities can comfortably house between 350 to 450 animals, but they're currently housing nearly 1,000 animals. The new projects will include new kennels and a new clinic and provide more space to isolate animals suffering from respiratory diseases. City Council approved $9 million for these projects. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. The rain has come and so has the cooler air. And now as the rain finally moves on out, overnight, we may see some patchy fog developing across parts of the borderland as the ground remains saturated from the rains. Now, as far as temperatures go, we're staying in the 60s, but as we get into next week, we've got a much stronger storm headed our way. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. It's pro time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVP's bonus points, and more the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long.
The hugs, the joy, even the sleepless nights. Whatever you get from parenthood, you always want to give your children everything. And the UNest app makes it easy to save for their future. The UNest app puts smart investing tools right in the palm of your hand. Plus, you'll grow your UNest account with every purchase you make from over 150 top brands like Disney Plus and DoorDash. Start building your child's financial future. Download the UNest app from the App Store or Google Play. See terms and conditions at unest.co. That's UNEST.co.
New on Curiosity Stream. Across the globe, coral reefs are dying, but not without a fight. Scientists discover a new heat-resistant super reef. What's its secret we can use to save the rest? It's Breakthrough Reefs of Hope. And humanity's future, a thriving multi-planet species, or will AI run the show? See how today's choices in technology and science may seal our fate on 10 Seconds to the Future. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. And for a limited time, get 40% off our annual plan. That's just $1 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
Any first responder will tell you never try to beat a train. After braking, it can take a mile for a train to completely stop. A mile. That's also how far a car can be dragged when a train hits it. So when you come to a rail crossing, stop, because trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
It's pro time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVP's bonus points, and more of the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
Veterans, are you planning to file a VA disability claim? Get ready for a better way to file. The Decision Ready Claim Program gets you a decision within 30 days after it's submitted. That's just 30 days for the benefits and services you've earned. Talk to your accredited representative or go to www.benefits.va.gov/DRC to learn more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Really, whatever works best for you. I mean, I do mean that. There's not one page that's slightly better than the other. Well, I guess maybe put everything slightly over Twitter, only because of the stability concern with Twitter these days. But also, you can't put the comments up on screen. It's more of a DM response kind of thing, which if you want to do that, go right ahead. Do try to check him as much as possible. But also, really whatever works for you. I mean, I do mean that, because if you're wanting to be involved with, talk about, and contribute to the discussion about what we got going on here and affecting us here in the borderland, you're definitely in the right place to do so here. And this is not to say that we ignore those on air. We can't get as much feedback from y'all, but appreciate y'all if you're paying attention and doing so safely. No phone in the hands with the wheel between the legs while out on the road here. We have those phone lines open a little bit later, as we usually do, because, it's pretty important. In any case, they get that feedback. In any case, one of the big stories that's been kind of percolating in the background here, I mean, it's been moving forward here, but answers one of the questions I had about what exactly is going on with Jaime Esparza, the former El Paso district attorney. Well, he has now finally, as of this week, been confirmed by the U.S. Senate as the U.S. attorney for the Western District of Texas. So some people may be wondering, and I think we did mention it as we've discussed it in the last week, about the potential names for who would be appointed here. Among other things, he was a Democrat, so not seeming a particularly likely part of him being anywhere near appointment by Governor Greg Abbott, and that whole process. That I got to wonder if we're coming up on some of those deadlines or not. Again, 8 days was my understanding about the time of action, so maybe it's considered business days. Those questions to be answered. But what Jaime Esparza's involvement will be in maybe those August 3rd cases is becoming a lot clearer, as he has now been confirmed to serve as the U.S. attorney for the Western District of Texas, a.k.a. the one representing our area. So that being the case, he would be potentially heading, as he gets into the office there, a 4-year term going into the leadership role of that. So whether or not he's going forward with it, whether or not he's going to be leading it in any case, that much to be TBD, to be determined by him, as he now has leadership on this here. And some interesting responses, of course, coming out from, Representative Veronica Escobar posting about this on Twitter, and also talking about that in other announcements that she has made here. But of course, it's notable that he did serve 28 years as El Paso's district attorney before stepping down in 2020, and now very much possibly in a role to be with the 2024 trial when it comes to the, again, federal side of the court case. Now, here's where the stakes kind of come in, and why you might think, okay, there'll be the federal trial, there may be the state trial before that. I'm just not too sure about the state trial really being able to progress before that. The real question that comes into place here is the death penalty. Now, there's a couple of factors that are going on here, some conversations I've been having with others about what that might mean. Now, of course, it has been not the most stated, but a stated part of the platform of the current administration in the White House about not liking the death penalty, in fact, seeking the removal of it entirely. There's been a stay on them for more or less the entirety of the administration. So let's just say that I would be surprised if, considering this is a federal appointment and that there is it is, of course, confirmed by the Senate, but this is something appointed by the White House. I would be very surprised that, also given the fact that this would have to be then a waiver gone for essentially from the top level, I don't necessarily see, again, there's a lot of tea leaf reading here going on here, which is why I'm justifying myself. But I don't see it necessarily terrifically likely under this administration anyway that there will be a move towards a death penalty seeking. I mean, capital and, murder charges and life imprisonment, no possibility of parole. Yeah, I see those all being fully on the table. But anything further wouldn't fit the administration's stated policies and goals that come along with it. But also, more significantly, a death penalty proceeding could potentially preclude the possibility of there being a state trial if the federal trial ends up coming first here. So those are some of the calculations that now will be very much in the hands of, and his higher-ups. Jaime Esparza now acting as the, again, U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas. And why? These are not just idle talk or a good for him kind of moment. There are some serious things that could be coming down with this, having spent probably more than the average person time in the federal courthouses, all for coverage and good reasons, and knock on wood that will always stay the case. But the fact of the matter is that things work a little bit differently at those levels. You ever wandered into one of those courtrooms here? Not that I've ever been there wearing ratty shorts and flip-flops and a tank top or anything, and a wonderful image. But there's definitely a dress code. There's a difference. Like I was wearing like a collared shirt, and apparently that's the only reason I got it. Did have to tuck it in. I mean, it was like a polo kind of thing. But seriously, it's a different world when it happens there. Most of the time there have been like some of those federal bankruptcy cases, as well as some of those Tigua cases actually that ended up getting decided as part of the most recent, not the current, but the previously most recent set of Supreme Court hearings and sessions there. It just works differently. It's a different world. And so trying to say he'll be doing the same thing there does not quite technically work that way. But we'll see if there are any other major cases. But the one speculation about what will be happening with August 3rd is the most top of mind for me anyway. And with that, a couple of things that are going to be going on and worthy of mentioning here, including, among other things, that medication shortage in Las Cruces. But we'll talk maybe a little bit more about that as we get further on. But, of course, expecting to talk a lot more as we are having more come out about Title 42, what is going on with it, and that appeal that has now been filed in federal court and what that could mean for this whole process. Oh, just one other thing I wanted to mention here. As much as the gubernatorial race is over, headline from the Texas Tribune, in defamation lawsuit against Beto O'Rourke, lawyers debate whether Kelsey Warren is a public figure. Subtitled, Warren, a Dallas pipeline tycoon, sued O'Rourke in February over accusations he made on the campaign trail that Warren effectively bribed Governor Greg Abbott with a $1 million campaign contribution following the 2021 power grid collapse. So, as much as elections, the cycles never really end or the next one begins immediately, we're still talking about part of the last one here, and I'm not even just talking about the runoff election, which, by the way, go vote. Districts 1, 8, and 6, if you ain't been to the polls yet already, know that I am going to watch you as much as I can from sitting in a windowless room. Anyway, let's take that break right now. Coming out of this break, we're definitely be talking more about these things and also opening up those phone lines. So if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Two crashes on Joe Battle Boulevard, one southbound at Montana Avenue that's blocking the right shoulder. Multiple vehicles are off to the right. Joe Battle northbound at Edgemere, an accident reported. On the 54 Patriot northbound at Kenworthy, a crash there has got multiple vehicles on the right shoulder. And it's stop and go on Global Reach, 33-minute delays southbound from the expressway to Montana. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. It's pro time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVPs bonus points, and more of the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long.
Want to get a $300 Visa card from your Medicare plan? At WellCare, our Medicare Advantage plans are simplified so you can enjoy all the great benefits you care about most, like our WellCare Flex card, a preloaded debit card that gives you up to $300 to pay for extra dental, vision, or hearing expenses not covered by your plan, like hearing aids, dentures, prescription glasses, copays, and more. It's just one more way WellCare is improving every aspect of Medicare to give you access to the top-tier benefits you want most, plus a little extra. To learn more about WellCare, visit wellcarefornm.com today. That's wellcarefornm.com to enroll today. WellCare, it's Medicare done well. Benefits vary by plan. WellCare is the Medicare brand for Centene Corporation, an HMO, PPO, PFFS, PDP plan with a Medicare contract, and is an approved Part D sponsor. Our DSNP plans have a contract with the state Medicaid program. Enrollment in our plans depends on contract renewal.
Hey Texas, did you know that individuals living with serious mental illness are more susceptible to severe COVID-19? Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov for vaccination resources to help reduce the risk and keep yourself and your fellow Texans informed and protected this holiday season. Stay healthy, Texas.
If you manage a business, you know how important it is to continually find new customers and new ways to save money. Here at iHeartMedia, we can help with both. We reach more consumers in your area than anyone else, and we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively than anyone else across radio, digital, podcasting, OTT, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. So contact us at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
No one has the same favorites as you. From the stations you love, to the podcasts you binge, to the artists you can't live without. Download the free iHeartRadio app and hear what you want, when you want, for free.
iHeartRadio. It's pro time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVPs bonus points, and more of the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to join in on the show, particularly at this point during the program. Number to call there is, well, full of the moment, so to call later if you want to squeeze in, 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. Yeah, a lot of stuff to get into today. A lot of people chiming in. Do appreciate it, particularly like Louis Panato's comments here, among others. And Ion Graham, Eric McNabb, RJ, Eric von Holstein Rathlau, Ed Clore. Who else we got there? Oh, wait, that's me as I posted the links there. If you're ever wondering about how to get in contact with Stephanie, we do post those up as we go by there. But also Amber Banda. Who else here? At least someone else said something. That was, Austin Redfern. Good afternoon to you as well as those dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Ion Graham, Frank Rodriguez, Roel Terrazas, Flaco Jimenez, Jerry Harton, Ida Beza Gardner. A lot of stuff to get into in all of these ways. So, again, if you want to make your 2 cents known and add into it. Phone line's open, but let's get at least one call before we hit the top of the hour right now. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hello?
Ben, there, yes. What's on your mind?
Oh, how you doing, Andrew?
Doing right,
over the weekend, I listened to all the Sunday shows, Sunday morning news shows, including CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, NPR, and Fox. I have also listened to the last 3 days of CNN's Jake Tapper. And except for shows on Fox and other conservative shows, not one word was said about the transfer of information released by Elon Musk on Twitter from the Biden laptop. and the efforts to cover it up by the FBI and others. My challenge today is for Eric, Raul, Messiah Frankie, and all your other left-leaning listeners to listen to some of the shows on Fox and other conservative shows, and even beyond the Beltway, that are talking about it. I will be willing to bet that none of you have listened to anything they are saying about the Twitter Biden laptop cover-up. You probably have never heard of Tony Bobolinsky, the big guy, Hunter's overseas Ukraine and China business deals, photographs of Biden with a group of Hunter's Russia and Kazakh clients and their connections to CEFC China Energy Company. And probably never heard of about Jim Baker, who was a former FBI collusionist with the FBI with the collusion scandal with Russia and Trump, and was Twitter's lawyer, Jim Baker, and his attempts to cover up this story. That brings me to something I think you'll find pretty funny, and that's Jonathan Turley's op-ed about Houdini's trick of making his 10,000-pound elephant, Jenny, disappear every night in New York's Hippodrome. He succeeded night after night because the audience wanted the elephant to disappear, even though it never left the stage. I previously wrote about how the key to this is Jonathan Turley talking, about how the key to the trick was involving the media so that reporters are invested in the illusion, like calling audience members to the stage. Reporters have to insist that there is nothing to see, or they have to admit to being part of the original deception. The media cannot see the elephant without the public seeing something about the media in its past effort to conceal it. The media is now so heavily invested in the trick that they are sticking with the illusion even after they've revealed all this stuff about the Biden laptop story. Shows that even pointing at the elephant, heck, even riding the elephant around the stage will not dislodge these denials. This is no elephant because there cannot be an elephant.
Okay,
What do you think of that?
That's an interesting analysis there, but
I think that analogy is pretty funny.
It's an interesting one, but too, let's talk more about that as we get into the next hour here because we're already due for that one. So thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. We'll talk further about that.
All right, thank you.
All right, sure thing. With that, we got to take that break now to make the top of the hour. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. Again, that phone number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On southbound Joe Battle at Montana, a multi-vehicle accident is up on the right shoulder. 54 Patriot southbound at Kenworthy, several vehicles on the right shoulder after a crash there. I-10 westbound Geronimo, disabled trucks blocking the left shoulder. And the 10 eastbound is slow Trans Mountain to the Patriot with 9-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
For more than 20 years, the Window Depot has provided the best price and the biggest inventory on in-stock vinyl windows. And now, the Window Depot is more than a window store, offering homeowners and contractors a one-stop warehouse offering interior and exterior doors, granite quartz countertops, in-stock cabinetry, and skylights to finish your project. Their team of professionals will help with everything from free kitchen design to custom orders from leading manufacturers like Milgard and Geldwin. Order online or find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio on the hour and a half. KTSM. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The House Minority Leader met with President Biden about removing the COVID vaccine mandate for military service members. Julie Ryan reports.
Speaking on the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show, Congressman Kevin McCarthy shared what he told the president.
The NDA, the National Defense Authorization Act, is up for renewal.
And you know what happened? I told the president we wouldn't pass it unless we lifted this mandate.
McCarthy is referring to the NDAA, a bill that gives funding for different defense agencies. The California Republican says this is a victory.
We're going to be able to lift the mandate off this. So no longer will the men and women be forced to take this vaccine.
McCarthy also told the president to rehire military members who were forced to leave over the mandate. I'm Julie Ryan.
Wall Street is closing with mixed numbers as investors ponder the risks of a recession. The Federal Reserve is expected to raise rates once again at its December meeting next week. About 20,000 people in North Carolina are getting power back after a gun attack crippled 2 power substations. Duke Energy officials say power will be fully restored in Moore County east of Charlotte soon. The weekend attacks initially knocked out power for over 40,000 customers. The White House says President Biden is committed to banning assault weapons in the U.S.
He's never going to stop showing up. He's never going to stop talking about this. He believes that speaking up and making sure that the American public is aware what his priorities are is important.
Speaking to reporters, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said the president wants lawmakers to pass stricter gun control measures. A Republican congressional candidate in Texas who lost in the midterm is under arrest for allegedly threatening to kill the man who beat him. Keith Casey now faces federal charges. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is urging folks to get up to date with flu and coronavirus vaccine shots. This comes as New York hospitals are very busy dealing with a huge surge of flu and RSV cases. She says COVID cases and hospitalizations are rising as the holidays approach. Stats show only 13% of the New York population eligible for the latest COVID booster shot have gotten it. A petition to recall Los Angeles City Councilman Kevin De Leon has been approved by the city clerk's office. Phil Hewlett has more.
Now organizers can start collecting signatures. They'll need more than 20,000 of them from registered voters in De Leon's district by March 31st to trigger a recall election. De Leon refuses to resign nearly 2 months after his voice was heard on leaked audio from a private meeting held last year. The meeting, which included 2 other council members and a labor leader, included racist and insensitive comments.
Thousands of women have recently flocked to the still very male-dominated field of truck driving in recent years. Erin Real reports.
The number of women employed in the truck transportation industry hit 1.6 million in October, a record since they started tracking the data back in the 1990s. Women's share of the trucking industry workforce is now at an all-time high of nearly 18%. For decades, the trucking industry has had trouble retaining workers. The sector is now short of around 80,000 drivers, an all-time high, according to a report from the American Trucking Association. Women are filling those gaps, and they are generally coming from the healthcare sector. The solitary nature of the job is attracting workers burnt out from patient demands.
Peacock is announcing the release date for its upcoming drama series, Mrs. Davis. Betty Gilpin stars as a nun who fights against a powerful artificial intelligence known as Mrs. Davis. The series will also star Jake McDorman, who will play Gilpin's ex. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. It's pro time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVPs bonus points, and more the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long.
The bicycles. The toy fire trucks. Instead of giving gifts that kids will outgrow, invite grandparents and friends to contribute to your child's future with the UNest app. UNest allows parents to create an investment account for their kids that makes it easy to gift funds that can be used for college tuition, a first car, and more, just by sharing a link. To get started, download the UNest app from the App Store or Google Play. See terms and conditions at unest.co. That's UNEST.co.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. Annual enrollment is from October 15th to December 7th. This is the time to select a Medicare Advantage plan and start enjoying great benefits. Part C plans can help you add vision, dental, hearing, prescriptions, gym membership, and some plans can even help reduce the cost of Part B. If you are new to Medicare or just need to renew, Medicare Prepare is here to help. Visit them at 10295 North Loop Drive or call Medicare Prepare at 915-626-5113. In-home appointments available.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I opened the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff to discuss here, and yes, there are some of the bigger national stuff, but okay, let me just put it this way. Thursday is coming. We will be out of the office on Friday this week. We'll have some new content for you, as well as some of the, let's just call it relevant-ish stuff coming up for Friday. We might be pulling from the archive of some stuff that we definitely played before, but may not have been put forth in this context. Let me just put it that way. In any case, tomorrow is the free-for-all show here, so just keep in mind here that we do have local stuff to discuss and local impacts coming from a variety of things, including, of course, the developing things going on with Title 42, as much as there were from our news partners there at KFOX 14 article out today. Title 42 uncertainty leaves El Paso shelters, officials scrambling to prepare for surge. But then also the fact that now Title 42, the removal of it is being challenged in a U.S. appeals ruling that would lift asylum restrictions. The operative phrase are being appeals. They appeal that ruling because, yeah, the order to see the end of Title 42, remember the whole sequence of events, it was ordered removed, and then it was put as, okay, well, it'll be removed later on in December. December 21st was that serious, moment of truth for how preparations or how policies in place we're going to be able to handle it here. But now that is in question, as there might be more action being taken on this. I surmised at the time that I thought there would probably be at least some kind of appeal. At least let's look at making this a structured removal as opposed to just, ripping the Band-Aid right off kind of situation with it. And that is bearing out, even if we're 2 weeks out. So leaving a lot of room for maybe a little bit more time, or maybe not cutting it quite so close to this happening and there being kind of, there's an argument to be made that damage has already been done in terms of what the response is going to need to be here, because as the story gets out, you bet your buñuelos that this has been a marketing line coming out of the coyotes and the cartels being, oh, no, it's going to go away. You'll be able to do whatever the heck you want, or however they market it down there. But something, let's just call it something along those lines, and with the then end line being, and that's why you should totally sell everything you got, give us all your money, and we'll totally make sure that we will totally not then hold you ransom within the United States in the stash houses. Totally. Now, let me say totally one more time and make sure, because that's where you'll totally believe me then. Like, seriously, this has already been a part of the consciousness going in. The situations we've been seeing just south of the border, even when there was that by Mexican authorities raid, so to speak, on the encampment that had been more or less on the banks of the Rio Grande, being done by, again, the Mexican authorities in that case. Those were at least some of the cries being made. It's reported on by many local outlets, including our news partners there at KFOX 14, that some of the responses were just wait until December 21st. Because that is a date that has been a lot of focus on it. So this could, again, throw a wrench potentially in that. But still, I have an expectation, cloudy crystal ball as ever, that we're still going to see quite the response being required in our area. So with that being reiterated, let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeastern line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Who the president is can have a much greater impact on El Pasoans' lives and that of all Americans and people around the world than El Paso City's representatives and mayor. Now, ideally, we'd have a virtuous, moral, ethical, honest, compassionate, and vice presidents and leaders. Now, the last president affected El Paso in the worst of ways. The words of leaders can impel people to action, good and bad. Demagogue Trumpenstein's words played a significant part in getting 23 people in El Paso killed, the worst thing that has ever happened in El Paso's history. And Don the Con ripped off El Pasoans for $500,000. Now, discerning people knew he was a cheat. He cheated on all three of his wives, and now his company was found guilty of 17 charges of criminal tax fraud and falsifying business records. How's that for a first? How's that for unprecedented of a president, of an ex-president? And
I mean, if we're talking about the character of the president here, as we're actually going with here, it was very important to note, I think, that there are actually no individual charges here. Yes, it's the Trump organization. It bears his name. His ego is definitely wrapped into it, and I'm assuming that he's not perfectly pleased with it here. But the fact of the matter is that there were no personal charges ending up coming down on him, much as in the completely opposite side of the spectrum here from the, private business kind of aspect to the public life you're talking about here. There has been, of course, the idea of what is going to be happening with the rundown of, or the sunsetting, I think is the phrase been better used here, of the January 6th committee, as, again, there's going to be that change in the House leadership. Maybe more committees. There's been a lot of threatening along those lines. We'll see what comes to fruition. That, sure, there have been the possibility of them recommending criminal prosecution for others there, but again, not specifically being mentioned there has been the president either. We'll see if they're actually willing to go that far. Of course, it would be argued that a lot of the argumentation they're putting forth is leading up to that idea, but the fact of the matter is that it hasn't been put forth that way, at least at this point in time.
Yeah, well, in any case, the January 6th Congressional Committee will be issuing criminal referrals to the DOJ on Trump, and they'll be releasing their report, they said, around December 16th. This is the Democratic Congress Christmas present to the American people and to Donald Trump. And it seems that you feel a compulsion to spin for him, to,
Okay, if we're talking about spin here, you're going to call this calling in and just letting out a litany of name-calling, coming on with this as anything but. We're going to call that objective truth at this point here, or are we going to actually talk about the issues involved with it here? I never like being put in the position of feeling like I have to defend any politician. They should be able to do that damn well themselves here. But let's just say that if we're going to keep doing the same kind of, even if you're maybe switching up the alliteration on some of these things, the same thing over time here, you can see how that might get a little bit stalled without bringing up new points. I mean, sure, there was the two new-ish points on the actual committee and the, well, what's going on with the company here, but not really on the personage, except for, again, going through this review that we seem to do every so often when it comes to your interpretations of the character of the former president. Is there much changing there in your interpretation, or something that I missed there?
No, he's still a scumbag. He's the worst president we've ever had. Historians have ranked him as such. And discerning people could tell about this guy way before, as soon as he started birthing Obama, as soon as he started his demagogue rant against Mexicans and immigrants. So, I believe in karma, and I think he's reaping the tons of bad karma that he has sown throughout his life. And he's finally come across an organization that has infinite amount of lawyers and money. See, in the past, with his money, he could out-lawyer people, but he's not going to out-lawyer Uncle Sam.
I mean, I think that remains to be seen, because honestly, you got to remember, as much as things have been going forth and they've got the special prosecutor going on in the whole Mar-a-Lago and the document situation, I mean, those a lot get conflated here. And the fact of the matter is that these are separate, at least for the moment. We'll see if anything comes out with the recommendation for criminal investigation. But until it does, I mean, that's kind of a calling the shot here, pointing at the outfield without there being anything exactly from it yet. If it comes to that, we'll certainly talk about it here. But if you want to talk about the president and the impact that they can have, I mean, let's talk about the actual president, which is why I've been focusing a little bit more on, say, like this whole Title 42 action. So you're entitled to your opinion on it here, and we're very, I think, clear at this point on your opinion here. But let's just say that the rehashing of it and the bashing that comes along with it, well, good luck with it in your own life here. we're going to move on with that for now. Thanks for the point in the call for what it's worth. You have a good one there. So let's go ahead and take that next break now. Refresh on the line here and get back on track so I'm not 8 minutes past the break I'm supposed to take. So we got more calls on the line. Again, if you want to call in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Couple of crashes slowing traffic a little bit right now. Joe Battle southbound at Montana. An earlier crash there is off on the right shoulder. An accident blocking the right shoulder on the 54 Patriot northbound at Kenworthy. Slow traffic on the spur. On Liberty Expressway eastbound from the Gateway to the Loop, it's a 13-minute delay. I-10 eastbound Trans Mountain to the Patriots, a 7-minute delay. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. It's pro time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVPs bonus points, and more the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long.
Want to get 7 streaming services for the price of 1? Sign up for a smart bundle that'll stimulate your brain. Featuring Curiosity Stream with the best documentary films and TV shows. Nebula for thought-provoking content from your favorite creators. And One Day University with the best lectures from the country's top professors. And so much more. It's perfect for families with all kinds of interests and great content for kids. It also makes a perfect holiday gift. Now at 40% off, get all 7 services for only $3.50 a month. Sign up now at smartbundle.com.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Water heating can account for up to 25% of the energy consumed in your home. Save money and energy and improve the comfort of your home by turning down the temperature of your water heater from 140 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It can save you up to 22% on your energy bill annually. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
What if this holiday season you could give your loved ones the gift of never, ever having to bend down or touch their shoes to put them on? Like ever again. That's a pretty powerful gift. And that gift would be new hands-free Skechers slip-ins. That's right. With new Skechers slip-ins, your loved ones can just step in and go to put their shoes on. And no, this isn't holiday magic. This is the latest breakthrough from Skechers, the comfort technology company. So how do new Skechers slip-ins work? There's a special comfort pillow in the heel that helps your foot slide into place and keeps it secure in cozy comfort, which means slip-ins go on easy and stay on. Plus, they come in all your favorite fashionable styles for the whole family, including kids. Imagine how easy it will be for kids to get these on. That's a gift from mom and dad, too. And slip-ins are affordable, which means you can give them to everybody on your list and even slip in a pair for yourself. Find slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. Get on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app. Joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Those are the right places to find us in order to join in on the conversation that we're having about, as much as possible, the things that affect us here in the borderland. And sure, there's a lot of argumentation that can be had on that, but let's just say, you got a point you want to make, at least try to make it somewhat relevant, because if it just ends up being about why I dislike someone as much as possible and anyone that might also like them, we're going to find ourselves moving on there. I mean, we got Free For All Friday for a reason here. I called it airstrike on myself here. If you can't keep it contained to there, just reevaluate your priorities is all I'm saying there. So a lot of people tuning in, chiming in, do appreciate that, including dropping those likes and reacts. Monica Cervantes, Ion Graham, Frank Rodriguez, Rolls, Harasas, Flaco Jimenez, Jerry Hart, and Ida Beza Gardner. Do appreciate that and all the ways that means, and they are a lot more to come there. But let's get back to those phone lines now. Again, if you want to get on the line, the number to call, it's full up at the moment, but the number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Barbara on the west side with us here right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Mhm.
I'm really going to go off topic here because I want to answer to some of the virtuous, moral, ethical, honest, and wise characteristics of the president. I guess we need to remind Raul that on the morality side of it, he should talk to Biden's daughter. He should talk to Hunter. And perhaps he has forgotten about the woman who accused him of sexual harassment that everybody ignored. So let's not talk morality. And ethical, wow. I'm going to put ethical and honesty together. He lied to the American people of the college debt forgiveness program that he could do it, and the court said no. He lied to us when he said the union contractors settled, and they weren't. He put it on Congress's lap. He lied to us when he said that the supply chain matter that Buttigieg had taken care of all that. That was a lie. And he lied about the monies that he's received from China, Burisma, Ukraine through joint bank accounts with Hunter, which has all been disclosed recently, and which Twitter is revealing now. And so his comments that this guy is honest is way beyond. And also these Twitter emails are now revealing that President Biden knew about the Russia collusion. As a matter of fact, he was in a meeting with Obama and Comey before they left the White House talking about the Russian collusion and how they were going to do it. So he knew all about that. And wise? How wise was he when we withdrew from Afghanistan and left American people there and created 13 more Gold Star families? He knew about Venezuela. And how wise is it to have to grovel to Venezuela, Iran, and OPEC for oil because he took it upon himself to shut down our oil and gas industry. And now we are no longer energy independent, but rather dependent. And how about the president of the Iranian Mullah or whatever he's called, calling Biden demented, and Biden is still wanting to work with them on a nuclear weapons joint agreement. The idea that he could use these words, virtuous, moral, ethical, honest, and wise, to the American people, to a knowledgeable citizenry, to the voter, to us that stay on top of all these things is just comical. And the fact that Biden would tell a reporter when they asked him if he knew anything about his son's business, he kept saying no. Well, he says, as a matter of fact, I know Trump, and I'm quoting, I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of a president. Well, do you know who is working in the Biden administration from Twitter? Their legal counsel, the individual who decided to make her own decisions, circumventing, what's his name, Dorsey. She now works at her name is Yoel Roth. She departed from she was the deputy head of legal matters. So she has been rewarded by the Biden administration, and she worked in the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency at the White House. So how can he say that this president of ours is honest when they've been colluding with Twitter, and we know it? And I have a report. He has got approximately 50 people from high tech working in the White House making policy decisions. This lady is one of them. And I don't have the list in front of me, but I have like 20 more individuals, and they are working in very critical departments from high tech. Are we supposed to believe, including the FBI, and James Baker is now the guy who has been vetting the emails that Twitter has been releasing unbeknownst to Elon. That's why he got fired yesterday morning. That's why they walked him out of the building. This FBI agent and Biden, I'm just so
I know
information here.
I mean, there's a lot to go into here. Let me just say this. I guess I'm not on the Iran part of it. I guess I'm not surprised about the rhetoric. I mean, at any time we're talking about working officially with Iran, they still refer to the United States as like the great Satan. So I guess it's just kind of built in with like, yeah, you're going to take your verbal lumps anytime you even engage that. Though they're also taking their own more than verbal lumps lately with the protests they've been seeing here. So maybe sometimes turnabout is fair play here. But on the idea also of the whole revolving door, I mean, that's frankly been an issue. I mean, high tech has become increasingly part of it, particularly with, frankly, social media. But let me just say that, that whole revolving door of this between industry and then administration, and this goes across bounds here, has been a concerning level for, my lifetime. Let's just put it that way here. So, yeah, there's something to be concerned here about this current circumstances. And anyone questioning about this, talking about like the current president, the person currently making policy is always just going to be a little bit more relevant in my mind. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot to be discussed there. But was there also a point about the local stuff that you wanted to make there, Barbara?
Yes, I wanted to just tell everybody to keep in your prayers the family who just lost the Border Patrolman in Hidalgo County that was killed chasing illegal immigrants just last night, I believe it was. He hit a fence and he died. He's got 2 children. He was only 38. And it's just so sad that he's out there defending the country. Mayorkas is coming to El Paso tomorrow. Biden doesn't want to visit the border. And we have our Border Patrol on top of the ones that have committed suicide. God bless all their souls. We have an administration who does not care about our country, about our people, the people who are losing their lives, like this gentleman with 2 small children. It hurts the heart. I don't know where our Congresswoman is at. I didn't see her at the meeting with Cuellar today at the steps of the court, Congress. There was a bipartisan group of people there stating we need to fix this, we need to secure the border, and we need to work on our laws. I did not see our Congresswoman there supporting that effort. So please remember the Border Patrol agent who passed away, and he's got 2 children.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
that's very sad.
I'll agree with you there. So thank you very much for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right. And I think we have time for one more call before we hit that next break right now. Again, the number to call in 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. A hint, whenever we're done with the previous call, that's your moment to. Or you can just try it at random points here, see what works for you. And always taking the comments over there, including over online, if you want to add in on there. But let's get at least one more call in. We do have Eric on the east side with us here right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Okay, I guess it's good that I followed up Barbara right now, because, Title 42, a lot of people care about immigration for other reasons than they're pretending to.
Mm-hmm.
Like Barbara thinks Mexicans are they're trying to take back states from the United States, like Texas. Like, she actually thinks this stuff, and she disapproves of interracial marriage. That's where she's coming from. So she's dishonest and reading white supremacist literature almost every time she calls in. Like, Title 42, people,
mm-hmm.
they're right-wing people, they're always motivated by some absurd right-wing conspiracy theory in the back of their minds. And so they have to double speak and fake all of this concern about all of these things. They make the most absurd arguments and makes them look dumber than they are, because they're bad faith arguments that they just make, and it makes them sound silly. But, Barbara thinks more brown people coming into the country is going to cause a race war. Did you by chance read any of those links that I've sent you showing you all this proof?
Oh, yeah, I've read the links here, but let's talk about a few things here. The whole idea of bad faith coming in here. Honestly, and I'm not looking to get in the definitional argument that you like bringing up there, but the idea of bad faith, of assuming people's motives here without any necessarily proof about it, because sure, there are absolutely people out there that do not want anyone besides their exact race represented in any kind of way. They absolutely exist. Go online and go into any kind of public forum, and you're probably going to find it here. No pun intended. But the idea of there being in any individual that kind of same malice and miscontent outside of any actual evidence of it here is, well, I think that's where the biggest problem ends up coming up with this, because the assumption of malice on anyone here, I mean, officially, even I much prefer to assume incompetence rather than malice, except without good cause, reason to do so, because people tend to be more ignorant and stupid than they are purposefully and willfully malignant in their actions with it here. But also, yes, reading what you did, don't end up agreeing with a lot of the viewpoints being stated there, but the idea that everyone that disagrees with you here is inherently wrong and, oh shoot, let's just go on to the definitional thing real quick. The idea of ad hominem, because here's why we focus on the issues the way we do and talk about the actual responses for it here, as opposed to going, and that's why everyone who disagrees with me is wrong. There's a reason we're not, at least try not to be bombastic much on this part of it here. What we are talking about when we're talking about the issues here is about, okay, what do you think is right or wrong, and then justifying it. If you're going to be telling other people that, no, you are wrong at your base level because of inherent characteristics I find with you, and not actually talking about necessarily the reasoning or the issues with it, we're going almost particularly and entirely into ad hominem there. So I'm not even saying I disagree with you. There have been some points which I have found limited amounts of disagreement, but the wrap-up you do about how, and everyone I disagree with is wrong, bad, evil, idiotic, stupid, whatever, that's where we start ending up being... seeing that disconnect. Do you see how that might work there? Eric, you with us? All right, I guess we lost Eric there.
I agree with you 100% that, these people are... Hello?
Yeah, we're here. Are you there?
Okay, yes. No, I agree with you 100% that, a lot of people, they're just too stupid to be moral people a lot of times. And when they think conservative talk radio like Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Alex Jones are credible sources of information, they're deceived into supporting bad causes. This is why social media companies have to moderate their content, or else you're going to have 14-year-old kids who are just too stupid and undeveloped. They start consuming Ben Shapiro or Alex Jones or Sean Hannity, and all of a sudden they're conspiracy theorists for life, dedicating themselves to making assumptions about Democrats.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right here because as much as, again, you're saying you agree with me here, I think you're missing the point I'm trying to make here. It's the idea that if you've got gripes with the people that you keep bringing up that way, this litany of, again, people that you find yourself disagreeing with, anyone who mentions them or brings them up, is they're also for suspect or just condemned in your eyes here. You got gripes with them, take them to them, because we're doing our own thing here. I think I need you to understand that we're trying to as much as possible, even if everything else keeps getting dragged in like a cat with a dead mouse. All these other issues, we're trying to talk about the local things and the importance of them here. So if you got grievances with people who are making these other decisions, other statements here, would fully encourage you to go and, well, air your grievances there. But if you think this is your truth, speaking truth to power moment by talking about people who are just concerned about things, let me give you a concrete example here about why this can seriously go awry. There is some definable evidence out there that the idea of lower taxes and lower taxation, some of the original formulation of it going back to like the 60s and such, was the idea of therefore not being as many services, so services wouldn't go to quote unquote the wrong people, and therefore more people keep their money and do whatever they want with it. But does that mean that everyone who likes the idea of not paying as much as taxes shares that reasoning? Absolutely not. I would argue that probably a majority, if not a significant majority, just like the idea of not paying as much to a government that they don't necessarily see as effective. Now, what would you do if you wanted to change someone's mind about that? Would screaming at them about how you are bad, evil, and incorrect in those things be at all persuasive in your mind? Or would it be that maybe you should say about, hey, here's why that might be a good idea? So much to say that advocating for a position as opposed to saying why everyone that you disagree with is wrong is maybe slightly more effective there. And yeah, I've read the links that you sent there, and I find myself a lot of the material you particularly sent objectionable in a variety of ways, and why we don't talk about those kind of things here. But also, if anyone's sending stuff during a show here, if you want me to review material, you got to send it to me before a show. We got talk to do in the meantime here. But the point is that if you got grievances with people, take it to those people, assuming malfeasance, and everyone else here is just, well, if you want to beat up on the audience, you're going to have to find a different platform to do it, is all I'm going to say here, because otherwise, you're going to try and do with the people who show up and actually take good faith in these kind of things. And just calling everyone else bad faith doesn't automatically make you good faith, I got to say there. So with that, we're going to go ahead and... I mean, you can throw all the sticks and stones that you want, my dude, but I'm just going to talk about what I think is right and what I think is accurate on this program here. And again, there's a difference between actually supporting these egregious ideas that you want to, or not agreeing with you that they apply in these ways here. Anyway, got to go ahead and take that next break right now. Thanks for the point in the call for what it's worth. I always appreciate a good discussion on what the hell we're even discussing, I suppose, here. Taking that next break and taking more calls after it again. If you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. Certain medications are getting hard to come by in Las Cruces. Pharmacists there are dealing with a shortage of both Tamiflu and amoxicillin. Tamiflu is an antiviral medication that's often used to treat the flu. Amoxicillin is an antibiotic that's used to treat bacterial infections. Although these shortages are not uncommon during routine flu seasons, national shortages are being reported this winter. The city of El Paso is working to expand its animal services facility to better serve the growing number of animals in its care. The current facilities can comfortably house between 350 to 450 animals, but they're currently housing nearly 1,000 animals. The new projects will include new kennels and a new clinic and provide more space to isolate animals suffering from respiratory diseases. City Council approved $9 million for these projects. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Road debris is going to slow you down on Gateway South at Diana Drive, blocking the right two lanes. Joe Battle Boulevard southbound at Montana. A crash there is causing slow traffic both directions on Montana, just outside the loop. Slow on the I-10 eastbound from Trans Mountain to the Patriot, 10-minute delays. The Spur is slow. Expressway eastbound from the Gateway to the loop, 7-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. The rain has come and so has the cooler air. And now as the rain finally moves on out, overnight, we may see some patchy fog developing across parts of the borderland as the ground remains saturated from the rains. Now, as far as temperatures go, we're staying in the 60s, but as we get into next week, we've got a much stronger storm headed our way. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. It's Pro Time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVP's bonus points, and more of the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long.
On a busy construction site, things can be misinterpreted. Bring in the bulldozer can sound a lot like
building looks mediocre. Designs need a do-over.
Or even
install a roller coaster? Okay.
be on the same page at every stage with Autodesk, from the designers to the field crew to the owner of the finished building. Autodesk Construction Cloud gives everyone clarity. Now, can we actually bring in the bulldozer?
The El Conquistador Tucson, a Hilton resort, welcomes our neighbors from El Paso. We're your perfect staycation getaway, far enough away down I-10 with amazing hiking trails. This summer, we're knocking 20% off all food and beverage for our El Paso neighbors. HiltonElConquistador.com.
Hey, Texas, did you know that individuals living with serious mental illness are more susceptible to severe COVID-19? Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov for vaccination resources to help reduce the risk and keep yourself and your fellow Texans informed and protected this holiday season. Stay healthy, Texas.
Any first responder will tell you never try to beat a train. After braking, it can take a mile for a train to completely stop. A mile. That's also how far a car can be dragged when a train hits it. So when you come to a rail crossing, stop, because trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
It's Pro Time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVP's bonus points, and more of the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. Get on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Let me just put it this way out there for anyone wondering about why we take certain things the way we do. We're not here. If you really want to talk about the important issues that are coming to here, if you're putting your ego into it, seeing yourself represented within it, you tend to not take things on a totally rational basis here. There's a reason I keep doing this, despite the fact that, I guess, even by my spouse all the time, how do you handle this? How do you keep doing with this? Because, see, I feel very honored, privileged, and lucky that I'm in the position to be able to lead this kind of discussion, be a part of it here. But I guess the way that it kind of comes down here is that the discussion isn't important because I'm a part of it. I'm important because I get to be a part of this discussion here and that's why I sometimes just laugh things off here. So if you're trying to ad hominem or even just insult people as part of it here, good luck. Hope that works in the rest of your life. Well, I kind of hope it doesn't work in the rest of your life, to be honest with you, but it's not going to fly here. And we're going to keep talking about the things that are important here, as much as derailing attempts are made impossible to focus on whatever is exactly part of it. Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about what we are affecting us here in El Paso. So in that same vein, let's get back to those phone lines. Oh, again, appreciate those dropping those likes and reacts, such as Bernadette Bandacol, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Ion Grimm, Frank Rodriguez, Raul Terrazas, Flaco Jimenez, Jerry Hart, and Ida Beza Gardner. Anyway, let's get back to those phone lines now. We do have Andrew on the west side with us here right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. Title 42.
Mm-hmm.
We do need to keep this process in place, Andrew.
I think, there's been a lot of analysis been going on nationwide and even particularly locally about what the immediate effect is going to be from this. Now, there is a separate conversation probably to be had about the merit of this being an exact policy, and I think that's where a lot of particularly the larger groups, ACLU statements that I've read on this kind of thing, also coming about the core progress and the core supposition of it about being pandemic related. Like, sure, there's probably something to be done in the long term based on that and making it so that's more representative of the situation. But the fact of the matter is that we're dealing with the Lone Ranger of policies left over that is more responsive to the current situation, and with something else concrete to replace it, that I think we are going to be seeing, well, what we had been seeing with a overwhelming of local and even federal locally placed resources here. So if the Biden administration wants to see this policy end, that is entirely their prerogative, as has, of course, been ruled. But they got to have something to deal with it. Otherwise, I think they're going to, well, politically speaking, they're going to reap the whirlwind, but we're definitely going to be feeling the effects here locally in the meantime.
Correct. And that brings me to my next point on that.
Mm-hmm.
We are not out of this pandemic by any means, and we're seeing increased hospitalizations. Children's Hospital is at capacity, and I believe concerning COVID cases, there's about 126, according to the last info that I saw, 126 individuals hospitalized locally with COVID. If somebody has different figures, please feel free to correct me.
There are the figures there, that's been about the numbers I've been seeing. And frankly, it's been leading up to a few weeks before now. I haven't spoken about them as much because the numbers aren't as well concrete as they used to be, because there are, of course, the COVID positivity numbers, the general testing in the area that we've got. But the fact of the matter is that number, it's been pretty high. I think one of the numbers I saw recently was about 46%, meaning of all the testing being reported publicly, not quite half were coming up positive, which in particularly, 2020, end of that year, would have been a serious issue. The problem is now that with the great availability of at-home tests and people who are testing negative there aren't really reporting them, I don't put as much faith in that public measure anymore, just because I think there's a lot that's not going into it. But I think it's undeniable that, Children's Hospital is at or near capacity. And with RSV, there's the whole conversation about the triple pandemic that with, COVID, RSV, and just the regular damn flu, that we got a lot going on this. And of course, the new story out today about the shortage of some of those key medications going on both nationwide and specifically within Las Cruces. There's reason to be concerned about and making sure this is handled correctly.
Yes. Well, another side to this is that you see these people, some of them are out on the street because there's no facilities, and that's a disgrace to these people, because these policies that have been in effect or non-policies are dehumanizing to these people. I mean, it is cold out there. I mean, these people are going to suffer. These immigrants are going to suffer if they don't have a place to sleep or any type of shelter.
Particularly with the weather situations, as that, sure, we may never get full on like Wisconsin winter here or anything like that, but seriously, we do get cold weather enough to make it that when we get down to freezing or beyond, exposure is a thing and damages that can come to bodies and persons from it. So it's not a good situation. So I haven't been hearing about some isolated incidents that I'm aware of the thing being that being in yards or camped out in areas, but we're not talking about what was happening within the last few months, or there were, tents being distributed and those kind of things at this point. Anyway, I'm hoping we don't get back to there because that just will be, besides the personal impacts you're talking about here, emblematic of a seriously badly handled situation.
Well, besides even having a problem with sanitation or trying to keep yourself sanitary and healthy, it's a problem. As for Comrade Rule, I would just like to say, Mr. Big still owes the city of El Paso $9 million. And as for Eric, I'd like to know, in all honesty, where he gets his information from, his sources. And I'm in agreement with you concerning ad hominem attacks, but Eric tends to be superfluous, and he tends to categorize people. And to me, that type of talk, when you start insulting people like that, you become vexatious rather than credible.
That's an interesting way to put it here, because if you're just focusing on why everyone is bad, sure, if you want to point out foibles you see in people or reasons why things are wrong, please do that. But if all you're ever doing is shouting about why you're wrong, why you're bad, as opposed to here's how it should be, there's just a lack of, whether it's a single incident or over time here, it becomes a bit of credibility there. That's, I think, a good way to put it, as you said.
Well, like I said, I'm all for freedom of speech and people
Absolutely.
making their point. I'll fight for an individual's right to speak their piece, no matter how much I disagree with it. But hey, it does become vexatious. Anyway, I turn the mic over to you, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point on the call. You have a good one there.
Likewise.
All right, with that, let's at least let's squeeze in what we can here. We do have Frankie in Mesilla on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right. I am giddy beyond delight. I am so excited, so happy. I'm like a little kid with his first ice cream cone. And what's shaping up for this coming up Christmas is just wonderful. This is Jimmy Stewart, Donna Reed, and It's a Wonderful Life. Jingle bells, Santa Claus coming down the chimney, the whole 9 yards. Raphael Warnock wins Georgia. Yippee-yi-yay. You can't go wrong. I was so surprised about that in myself, But also, the Donnie Dotar doofus is going so far down in the hole, he'll never get out of this thing, And I want to just say to all of you conservatives out there that still believe in this moron, you're going to, I'll tell you what you're going to get. Those of you that still have your stockings hanging up over your fireplace, if you got one, nothing but a bunch of lumps of bituminous coal. Now, what do you think of them apples? That's my opening comment.
I got to wonder about that whole coal instead of everything fable we got going on, particularly since the idea of fossil fuels being given out by Santa. I wonder how much that's actually going to stick around in the modern world or the modern mythology of it, given the way that is being not being looked on favorably anymore.
Well, are you talking the bituminous coal?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they still have it. Those folks that are still burning that stuff, obviously that's the most disgusting part of the aspect of coal. Anthracite is the best. It burns somewhat cleaner. But I just threw that thing out there because, I'm so old I can remember stuff like that with lumps of coal in the stockings. That's what I'm saying.
No, I get what you're saying is generally a way that it is bad. But let me also just say that, I don't see that being looked upon favorably anymore. That, oh no, you're giving them coal? That's bad. You can't even give them coal. Mostly joshing you there, but to the idea that, yeah, that whole change in the Senate, talked about a little bit earlier about how that is going to change the calculus slightly, though I still think there will probably be some sticking points, just to briefly touch on that whenever it comes to, Cinema, Manchin, and who knows, maybe others from the any of the new class that have come in there. So there is possibilities with what's going to happen with that, but I think we're still looking at with that split chambers that we got going on, that we're going into not exactly unknown territory, but haven't dealt with it in a while in any case. I mean, you split like this with one party in power of both the White House and the Senate, and then only one in the House. I'd have to look up exactly when the last time that situation has happened, but it hasn't been within the last couple of administrations, I don't feel like.
Well, no, I want to say this. I mean, not just representative of Georgia, but overall, over this last election, this midterm thing, yeah, my heart soars like an eagle with the thought process of so many of our fellow citizens that got their heads screwed on right, and they voted the correct way, because we want a democracy, not this nut job that wants to upturn the Constitution and all this other stupid nonsense. So God bless America, and then have Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas, all you normal thinking people out there, and the rest of you, get that lumps of coal in your stockings. That's what I want to say.
Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there, and Merry Christmas in case we miss you out before then.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate that. And tell you what, with that, we're going to have to take that next break right now in order to hit the top of the next hour here. We've had some more comments come in, and we'll at least try to display those here, including comments about the merits of immigration or not. But don't worry, also, we do have, the end of the week, or the end of the week for us here of our live shows tomorrow with the Free For All show. So it's treated as a lead-in for that. In any case, got to take that next break coming out of this. Tell you we got coming up for you, including plans for next week. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Eastbound Trans Mountain at Kenworthy, an accident is blocking the right lane and causing a bit of a backup. Expect delays. Gateway South at Diana, road debris blocking the right two lanes. Joe Battle southbound at Montana. That accident from earlier is cleared. All lanes back open. Slow traffic on the 10 westbound Sunland Park up to Artcraft. It's a 9-minute delay. And on the spur from the 54 Gateway over to the Loop, it's a 7-minute delay. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. It's pro time because at Lowe's, it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVPs bonus points, and more the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long.
If you run a business, you know how important it is to continually find new customers and new ways to save money. Here at iHeartMedia, we can help with both. We reach more consumers in your area than anyone else, and we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. From your cell, dial pound 250 and say keyword great results. That's pound 250 and say great results.
For more than 20 years, the Window Depot has provided the best price and the biggest inventory on in-stock vinyl windows. And now, the Window Depot is more than a window store, offering homeowners and contractors a one-stop warehouse offering interior and exterior doors, granite quartz countertops, in-stock cabinetry, and skylights to finish your project. Their team of professionals will help with everything from free kitchen design to custom orders from leading manufacturers like Milgard and Geldwin. Order online or find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
What if this holiday season you could give your loved ones the gift of never, ever having to bend down or touch their shoes to put them on? Like ever again. That's a pretty powerful gift. And that gift would be new hands-free Skechers slip-ins. That's right. With new Skechers slip-ins, your loved ones can just step in and go to put their shoes on. And no, this isn't holiday magic. This is the latest breakthrough from Skechers, the comfort technology company. So how do new Skechers slip-ins work? There's a special comfort pillow in the heel that helps your foot slide into place and keeps it secure in cozy comfort, which means slip-ins go on easy and stay on. Plus, they come in all your favorite fashionable styles for the whole family, including kids. Imagine how easy it will be for kids to get these on. That's a gift from mom and dad, too. And slip-ins are affordable, which means you can give them to everybody on your list and even slip in a pair for yourself. Find slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
El Pasoans Fighting Hunger and iHeartRadio have teamed up again to bring back the Buy the Box campaign this year to help those in need in our community this holiday season and beyond. Please consider donating during this most generous time of the year with your organization to Buy the Box. You'll not only be helping your neighbors right in our community to fight hunger, but you'll also be able to boost your business with a complimentary iHeartRadio advertising campaign. For details and to learn more, go to elpasoansfightinghunger.org. That's elpasoansfightinghunger.org/BUY the box.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Again, just a couple of the programming notes here. Our open line show will be the next show, as we're going to be out of town here for Friday. We'll have some new stuff for you here, including some of the local situations involving the food banks and stuff. But otherwise, tomorrow, doing all the calls, all the show, and all that means here, and all the it doesn't cause me a headache, but somehow I enjoy this. I still don't know what that means about me, but we'll keep doing it here. And in answer to my own-ish question, there have been a number of times there have been those split Congresses recently where the House and the Senate have had different leadership, particularly opposed to that of the actual, who's in the White House. But it has not been terrifically common, particularly since it's only really been happening since my lifetime. It has happened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So it has happened, but we'll see what comes out of this anymore here. But we're going to talk more about those issues. And at least one comment that came in off air was about concern with what we're dealing with the immigration policies, particularly in the bringing people out of the shadows here. Not one that has come up that often, but the idea of people by rote or by possibility of some of these policies having to live outside of legal protection, though kind of preying upon them, and just issues that can come along with that, definitely have to be a part of any solution that is put forth whenever it comes to immigration reform here. I know amnesty is not a favorable word looked upon by some here, but if there's not at least some kind of framework, a pathwork to citizenship, I don't know how it ends up working out with it. In any case, we're going to have to leave it there for today because we are super out of time here for this show. So I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call, and comment. And I do mean that seriously. Anyone who calls in and adds their 2 cents, puts them out there. I know it takes some time here. Just also know that you're putting it there, putting it out there. There's going to be a response to it as well here. But that's it for today. Again, thanks to everyone who did tune in, call, and comment, participate in any way. We'll do it again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m., as we do most often, Monday through Friday. And we got holiday stuff coming up, so more on that schedule there. But until next time, until the Free For All show tomorrow, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road. And have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio